Hello, everybody out there. Russ and I are back at it again. Wasn't sure if you were ever going to come up, Russ.
Hey,
Hate when it does this. I always like riding on the side.
of course you do.
It's like, you know what? It's like having
You're
your
my
side of the
sidecar
bed.
princess.
Well, it's like having your side of the bed.
It is. It is.
You get used to seeing yourself in a certain spot, and like I feel weird when I'm in the wrong
But
place.
as a guy, even when I stay in hotels and everything like that, I always sleep closest to the door.
Well, yeah,
I
that's a defense thing. You
yeah,
should
it
be
is.
doing
It
that.
really honestly is. Restaurants, hotels, anything like that, I'm always closest to the door so I can see everything. But
All right.
anyways,
Well, take it away, sir.
well, hopefully everybody Irish eyes are smiling on you today. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We are here. I wouldn't say it's a special edition. We're just here everyday life because here in Massachusetts, everyone's Irish every day. So, I mean,
That's not
most
even
people.
kind of true.
Hey, I got
I
called
mean,
out for not being Irish today.
okay.
I'm
As
literally
opposed to like a normal day when you're not Irish?
no, but it's like Cinco de Mayo. Not everyone is Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Well, okay.
Okay,
Anyway,
we'll just move on from there.
uh,
We'll
um,
jump right into our sponsors.
yeah, let's do that.
Warner Paranormal Preservation Society coming off a fantastic event they just held at the Heart Stuff Hall this weekend with Scott Allen and Christopher Brown. Some great gallery readings. The pictures I saw, I was under the weather, so I could not attend. But Ian, Kim, Julie, Sean were all there. I don't think Kyle made it down.
No, unfortunately, Kyle wasn't able to join us.
Okay. So, I mean, we had 4 members of the Preservation Society supporting the hall and helping out. From what I heard, you guys had some pretty great activity for
Yeah,
the
you know,
ghost hunt.
we had the gallery reading, went very well. Chris and Scott did a fantastic job. And then we followed that up with a VIP kind of, I don't want to call it a hunt or an investigation, really. It was more of a free form, kind of exploring the building, seeing what was willing to react that evening, what was really just kind of feeding off of the energy of the evening. We had some pretty cool things happen. Obviously, um, the Heart Stuff Hall is really good for some call and response stuff. It was good. We had a really good evening. We were able to raise nearly $1,000 for the hall, and that kind of stuff really goes into the preservation of the building and making sure that building stays for future generations. I mean, it was built 1899, so to have the opportunity to come in and help out in any way that we can to make sure that building stays operational and stays
Intact.
occupied. Yeah, because a lot of the buildings, especially up here in New England, go derelict pretty fast. And the next big step for that is some
Tear
land
down.
developer wants to make condos, and now we have subsidized housing instead of local history and tradition. So anything
Very
we
true.
can kind of do to stem that flow, I am about it.
So, and also I want to, say that Warner Paranormal has helped out so much with, the building and everything like that. The events that we hold at the building, we don't see really much money of that going into the
Hey, Courtney.
pocket of the society. It all goes back to the building. We
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we
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 don't.
we
I did not get paid to be there.
we keep the lights
We do
on, we
not.
keep the heat on.
Yeah.
We're doing this out of, like Joe said when we were talking backstage, we do this out of the labor of love.
We got a spaghetti dinner at the end of the year every year, and that's about it.
Yep, I mean, and it's cooked by one of us.
Yeah, me. Yeah. Um, that's about it. We do a potluck every year, and I usually bring the food. Um,
I help. I try to. I bring the salad prepackaged.
yeah, you bring like the Twinkies and the salad dressing.
All right, we'll go ahead and kick this one off because it's your wife.
Yeah, but your wife has used her services.
Another
I
one
don't have
coming up the
any.
day after. Another one coming up the day after my birthday with a snake shoot.
I don't have any. I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it. She's never really taken my picture except for my profile picture. No, Kimberly and Empowerment, located in Hanover, Massachusetts, specializes in female empowerment, boudoir, and specialty shoots. She actually has a couple of different theme shoots coming up. She has the snake shoot coming up, um,
You know,
where kind of live your goddess moment. And a couple of others. Honestly, she's got a couple of themes that I'm actually pretty curious how they're going to go coming up here. I know she's looking into maybe doing some more of the classes and seminars out of the studio now that we have the larger space. So keep an eye out at that at KimberlyAnnEmpowerment.com or at Instagram or Facebook. That's just me. We can move on.
Small Town Productions, run by Larry Eisler III. He is all over the country this year doing different events. He's going to be at the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. He's going to be at the Penhurst Paracon. He's going to be all over. If you have anything digital media that you need done, videos, graphics, anything like that, he's definitely your guy to go to. Always check out Larry. Sorry, I just got a text message on the side and it caught me off guard. Anyways,
the rash lotion come in at CVS, or
it did. I have one more day to pick it up before they cancel it and send it back.
that special shampoo gets rid of everything.
That special shampoo. So, anyways, Jeff's Traveling Boards of Wonders. Jeff Whittam. I don't know why I just blanked on his name there. It's been a weird couple days. Jeff Whittam, he runs this traveling museum. He has a collection of spirit boards, Ouija boards, talking boards, whatever you want to call them, dating back to the early 1800s. Such a great museum. I actually, little dust off the shoulder myself, I actually signed the door of his trailer because I guess I'm considered a special person, I guess. I don't know. That was kind of a highlight for me, but I mean, anyways, we'll move on from that.
8 out of 10 mental health professionals can't be wrong. You are special.
I am. So the Maine Paranormal and Horror Con is happening September 6th and 7th at the Augusta Civic Center in Augusta, Maine. We will play a trailer for this real quick. And thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. Jeff, everybody agrees with that, Jeff. I
Focus,
can guarantee
Russ. Focus.
I'm trying. Sorry, I want to give a quick shout out. I may be a little off sorts today. Tomorrow is my daughter's 13th birthday. So, first year being a teenager. So, I want to give a huge shout out to Harper Ray out there. Dad loves you. Thinking about you all the time. So, I've been a little out of sorts because of that. But, anyways, the Paranormal Horror Con happening 6th and 7th of September 2025, Augusta Civic Center. Some great lineup of people that are going to be there. We'll play the trailer for it real quick here in a second. I don't know, Ian, if you're queuing that up or if you want me to go down and queue it up.
I can queue it up.
A great lineup of guests coming, and the prices here, as you see, prices will go up at the door. So if you order your tickets now, you're on a very good route there. So,
and I will say this every time this comes up.
Yep.
Like, the VIP pass with dinner is priced at less than what you would normally spend at a date night out. Like, truthfully, like, you look at the VIP, like, it's $120. General tickets are $60. So for $60 to be able to get actually a dinner and really just like a dinner and a show, because you're going to have the opportunity to get around a lot of folks with the VIP dinner that you wouldn't otherwise in a much different setting. I think it's an absolute no-brainer at their price point. They kept it affordable. They kept it in space for everybody. I think it'd be foolish not to see those things get sold out.
You get the access to the event the entire weekend. You get like the VIP with the dinner for $120. You get access to everything. So, I mean, you get to have a dinner with these celebrities and rubbing elbows with them and everything like that. And the next day, you're right back on the convention floor and seeing everybody. So,
I think some of the not real celebrities, but those of us that have shows, we're going to be there as well.
Yeah, I think something about Compass Curiosity is going to be there. I mean, I heard. I don't know.
I mean, I'll have sleeves on, probably, maybe.
No,
probably
no.
Not.
If you're coming, I am requesting sleeve off.
I'll gear up. It's September. It's going to be one of those dicey ones where you don't know which way to go.
It's going to be, but I saw you shoveling snow in sleeveless shirts and shorts, so I don't want to hear that.
That is true. That is the best way to do it. Because you
Prevent
don't
the risk of
overheat
heart
that
attack,
way.
people.
Don't really sweat. You just kind of plow through it. Your body temperature stays the right temp. You know, it is what it is. Anyway, moving on to that video. Are we there?
We are, sir.
All right.
The first annual Maine Paranormal and Horror Con is coming to Maine on September 6th and 7th at the Augusta Civic Center. Come meet your favorite paranormal investigators, cryptid hunters, and horror icons. Special guests include John Zaffis, the haunted collector from Sci-Fi, Jeff and Willie from Mountain Monsters, Bob Elmore Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, CJ Graham, also known as Jason Voorhees from Jason Lives Part 6, Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot, and many more to be announced. Tickets are on sale now. Go to mainparahorror.com to get your tickets and VIP packages now. For more information, check out Maine Paranormal and Horror Con on Facebook and Instagram.
I did not realize it was a 3-course by professional chef. I thought it was just going to be catered and just like a basic dinner. I did not realize it was.
It's not a buffet, serve your own plate. It is a 3-course meal by a private chef.
Totally what I expected. And so
Jeff and Ashley have gone above and beyond what they're doing with this.
Are we going to call them Jashley?
Jashley?
Or
I mean, we had Benifer. We had Benifer.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Jashley.
I mean, they're listening right now, so guys, sound off. I mean, give us your feedback.
Well, without any further ado, since I don't know anything about the paranormal, Russ, you
no, you don't. You were ignorant about it
because I don't know anybody. I don't know anything. I don't know anything.
All right, guys. So this is a guest I've been wanting to get on for a while. He is deeply rooted in the paranormal culture. He has been taught by some of the pioneers of the field and has carried on their stories. So I'm very excited to talk to him and learn the stories and learn the history behind what is going on and things like that. So everybody, if you would give a silent clap to our guest, Mr. Joe Franke.
Hey guys, golf clap.
We had to bring you on with a big round of applause. Come on.
Oh, thank you. And I'm half Irish. My mother's maiden name was Quinn. So
okay,
half
there
Irish.
You go.
Frankie's German, but I'm half Irish.
So Joe,
you're on screen with a proper patty here. So
yes, you are. And I'm not talking about me.
I'm talking
about
all 4 grandparents are from like are like it's
straight off the boat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we are. Well, my grandfather on my mother's side was Nova Scotian, first generation Nova Scotian, and then kicked back to Ireland. But it was funny growing up in Massachusetts and New England. I always told my wife, I'm like, no, I'm 100% Irish. I'm 100% Irish. I'm 100% Irish because everybody is, right?
Yeah.
And then when we had our first son, she was like, oh, we should do the DNA testing to see what like we're predisposed for and things like that. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so we went through the company and we got a complimentary ancestry or 23andMe, one of those. It was 23andMe.
Yeah.
It came back 100% Irish. Like every like lineage like dates right back to the counties and everything like that. There's no variation outside of when like the Gauls invaded, when the Nords invaded, when like
were your results
Germans
delivered
invaded.
in a potato?
All right, cool. So since he wants to be racist on our day, we can go ahead and he's flipping out in the back room. That's fine. He could do that. So Joe, thanks for coming on. My co-host was really excited about having you. Unfortunately, he's no longer allowed to, interact with us here.
He's in timeout, he's in, like Facebook jail or something.
I'm only allowed to pop on first.
Oh yeah, no, dude, I was going to
Hi,
add you.
Steph.
You hit the button. Yeah, so this is my wife, right? So
Yeah, she did.
to be fair, the Irish gene pool pretty shallow, not super clean. It's
Needs
a
a little
small
chlorine.
island. It's a small island, and most people don't leave their hometown. So
I've never
genetic
been.
diversity.
I've always wanted to go. It's on the bucket list.
Oh,
To
it's
go over
absolutely
Ireland.
amazing. Honestly, one of my favorite
I wanna
places
go.
in the world.
I have to go.
It's 100% worth it. Yeah.
One of these days.
All right, Russ, continue
Ireland
on now that you're done making your anti-Irish comments on St. Patrick's Day.
I'm really just assaulting myself because I am like literally 52% Irish and the rest
Russ,
Scottish
if I
and
must
German.
say, you kind of look like a leprechaun there with the beard. You know,
It's just
I'm
a
not
gray
short,
hat.
though.
I mean that with love.
I grow it every year and I shave it off for
Yeah.
charity. So,
Yeah, well,
I
there you
mean,
go.
that's what I do. So, Joe, tell us a little bit how you were telling us a little bit backstage how you kind of got started, how you met the Warrens and everything like that. Tell everybody a little bit of the story if they don't know who you are or where you came from or something like that. Like you just pop out of nowhere and, hey, I'm Joe. I'm working with the Warrens. So kind of give everybody a little bit of a backstory of how you got involved.
I mean, I've been around for quite a while. I've stayed under the radar, but that was by choice. But yeah, I was telling you earlier, I was 18 years old. I graduated high school, I think May or June of '86, and began dating my wife. You know, we've been together now just about 39 years to be exact, and going on 33 years married. And I got to give props to my wife because if it wasn't for Laurel, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today, literally and figuratively. But you know, we're just newly dating, and what did we do back then? We didn't have much to do back then. That roller skating, if you know people remember what that is. You know, you go to the movies a lot. So one Friday night, I believe it was in September. It may have been October. It's 40 years ago. Laurel saw in the local newspaper that the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren, were going to be lecturing just one town, down the highway, about 15 minutes away. So they had a big ad in the paper, and she's like, "You want to go? Tickets for, I don't know, $15, $20." I said, "Yeah, it sounds great." I was excited. I had heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren. I had seen him on television and heard him on the radio and print media. No internet back then. That was about 10 years prior to the internet. And so we go down there, and we walk in, and Lorraine was standing there sitting at a table, greeting everyone and selling tickets and stuff. And she looked at me. She cocked her head to the side. I'll remember it like it was 5 minutes ago. And she said, "Honey, have we met before?" And she's looking at me like I just can't place the face. I said, "No, Lorraine." I said, "We've never met, but I've heard a lot about you. I'm really excited to be here." And she's looking at me, and I didn't know what she was doing at the time, but she says, "Honey," and she called everybody honey. If anybody out there ever met Lorraine Warren, she was a doll. She was a peach.
She really was.
Good people. And she said, "Make sure you come and see Ed and I after the show." She goes, "I want to talk to you. There's a reason why you're here tonight." So I was excited. Here I am, 18 years old. I didn't know my ass from my elbow. And, so we get through the program. At the end of the program, Ed and Tony were packing up all the stuff. And Ed's like, "Come on, Lorraine, let's go. Let's go." Lorraine was such a sweetheart. She would always hang around and answer everybody's questions because everybody flocked to her, like a moth to a flame. And people wanted to ask questions. They just wanted to meet her. And oh, Ed, okay, I'll be right there. Come on, Lorraine, let's go. I'm hungry. One thing that we used to do after a lecture or after a case is we would always find a diner somewhere and, talk about the events of the evening, whether it be a case or a lecture, how'd the lecture go? And if you look at me, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", 290 pounds. I said, I haven't missed too many cases, and so we're sitting in the diner, and she's sitting across from me, and she's holding my hands. And what she was doing was she was reading my aura, that supernatural glow that emanates from all of us.
Yes.
And Lorraine had the ability to read the colors and discern, what they meant. And she said, "Honey, I can tell by your aura that you were meant to do this work." She said, "Would you like to come and work with Ed and I and become one of our students?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I jumped at the chance,
Of
and
course,
back
anyone
then,
would.
I don't know if you know Connecticut at all. Newtown, Connecticut, unfortunately made famous for the tragedy some years ago. But in Newtown, Connecticut, there's a little place called Hawley Manor. I believe it's the Inn at Newtown now. But the Warrens used to have I don't know if they rented it or the owner let them use it. Every Monday night they would have classes, and the room wasn't much bigger than a coat closet, and I remember there was 6 of us, including my wife or my girlfriend at the time. And that's when Ed would come in with a box, and he would come in with like a VCR, if you remember what those are, a television set, and a box of notes. He would have his tape recorder, tapes, and that's when I first learned about cases like Amityville and Annabelle and the Harrisville haunting, as we know as the Conjuring House. I call it by its original term, and Ann Jarparan and her family grew up there, and the Enfield poltergeist, the Enfield, England case that they worked on for a brief time. I don't believe it was ever really one of their cases, but they worked on it with Guy Lyon Playfair and Maurice Gross. My memory's not what it used to be, and so Ed would play the tapes from these things and read the notes from the interviews and things like that. And I remember sitting there and I would just get goosebumps. And one of the first things we did with them was we went to Stepney Cemetery. Ironically, it's where they're buried today.
I've been there. Every time I'm through that area, I always stop and pay my respects.
Yeah, so you've been to the gravesite. Yeah, I was just there.
Yes, sir.
Not this past Saturday, the Saturday before. The boys and I, the OGs of the paranormal, were called, I guess. John Zaffis, Jimmy Haunted, Jimmy Petnino, Rick Clark, and Frank T.
Petnino. I gotta say, Joe, not to interject here or anything, but I am so excited because in September, the event that we promoted so much, the Maine Paranormal HorrorCon, you're gonna be there, Jimmy's gonna be there, John's gonna be there. Like, we got the trifecta going on, the Trinity going on over here. So,
thank you.
I'm so excited for that.
I'm very grateful to Jeff for having me. Thank you, Jeff, if you're out there. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. I love Maine anyway. I have family that live up in Waterville and Albion area, and Laurel and I go to York Beach area and Booth Bay Harbor a lot. I just love it up there.
And so anyway, Debbie. Jeff just said Debbie.
Debbie and Larry, Debbie and Larry are going to be there. Elward. All old friends of mine. I mean, all back from the 80s. I've known these folks. God, I met John back, 86. So we've been friends almost 40 years.
I was only born in 84, so I was 2 years old. So.
Oh, you're just a puppy.
Probably.
I just turned 57 last month. I feel like I'm 97 sometimes.
Well, happy late birthday to you, sir.
Thank you. So ironically, we used to do things like the first thing we did, Laurel and I, with Ed and Lorraine, we'd go out with them on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, just the 4 of us. Ed loved to drive. We'd meet him at their house. Sometimes I'd drive all the way up to where I live in Wallingford. It's about 35-minute drive. Ed would pick us up and we'd drive all over. Say, kids, come on, let's go to lunch. Come on, let's go to here. So he told me, he goes, Joe, bring your camera. He goes, I'm going to teach you how to do some spirit photography or psychic photography. So it's probably 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, bright sunny day. He goes, bring your camera and bring your 35 millimeter film, but don't load it prior to. Load it on site. So I said, okay, well, what speed should I get? And he said 400 speed seemed to work best with 35 millimeters. At the time, I also used Polaroid, but now I'm dating myself. Even though Polaroid's making a return, I think. So
hey, you know what? I've done the Polaroid thing. I've done the film thing. I've done the 200, 400, 600 ISO. I've been there. I've been there on the film thing.
Polaroid is making a comeback at a price point that is
absurd,
ridiculous.
I don't know prices. I can't.
My
afford
son and my
Polaroid
niece
camera
are
right now is
into
what,
them.
like $250?
Well, no.
Are
So
they that
like,
much?
just like a regular Polaroid body, you can get them right around $100.
Yeah, but how's the quality though, Ian? I mean, I don't know.
It
much
is
about
1979 quality.
Yeah, so it's nostalgic.
Nice, grainy, and
And
distorted.
it's $2 a shot. It's $2 per, like, so you have to buy like the 10 pack for the film. 10 packs are $20.
Hmm.
They're making a huge comeback, and it really is just
I probably won't be buying one, but
it's nostalgia. I wouldn't.
I mean, back then, Ed said, bring your camera. He says, sometimes when you take pictures of the old oxidized headstones, sometimes if you're lucky, you get maybe a face or something that, I mean, we call it pareidolia today, but, sometimes you get interesting looking face-like things in the stones. So I'm all excited. I went out and I lecture about this when I talk. I tell the story. People get a kick out of it. So I said, I brought the camera. I loaded it on site. I'm all ready to go. I'm following Ed around. He's pointing. Joe, take a picture of this headstone. This one's really cool here. Look at this one over here. About 20 minutes in, he looks at me. He goes, Joe, you got to take the lens cap off. I was so excited and nervous that I had left the lens cap on the camera, and half of my film got ruined. But ironically, that was at Stepney Cemetery where they're laid to rest today. And I spent about an hour there a week or so ago after lunch with the boys. I was only 10 minutes away from the cemetery, and I stopped by. I hadn't been there about a year and a half. And I just sat there. It was a beautiful sunny day, but it was windy and kind of cold. Just reminiscing about the old days. I can't believe it's been 6 years since Lorraine's gone. And Ed's been gone really since 2001, because that's when he had his massive stroke, and really lost him then. Even though, Lorraine, they loved each other so much, she kept him home, 24-hour nursing care for 5 years before he finally succumbed, but that was very sad, but I would go and visit Lorraine, and Laurel and I would just go see her and sit at her table. And, I'm reminiscing now as I'm talking about it. It just brings back a lot of fond memories.
No, that's the great thing. That you sit back and think about those good times, and you're like, they may be gone, but you know what? They're the biggest memories of parts of my life that mean the most.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't met them. I probably wouldn't have been in the field, in the paranormal field. But, back then, it's always been about helping people. It isn't about fame or fortune. It's, and I can prove it. I got the bank account to prove it,
I think we all do.
Well, I mean, when a family is in need or a person is in need, I mean, it's not always a paranormal issue, but you want to help, be able to make that discernment, whether they've got a paranormal issue or they might have it might be some other kind of issue, psychological, psychosis, schizophrenia. Maybe they just watch too much TV these days with everything that's going on TV and YouTube. People think it's cool. Yeah, I got a ghost. I'm like, yeah, you probably don't, but
and if you did, you probably wouldn't think it was cool.
Yeah, right.
Right. Now,
and that is actually the perfect segue. Go ahead and finish your thought. Go ahead,
No,
Joe.
well, no, Ed used to call me up sometimes on a Saturday or Sunday. Hey, kid. He always called me kid. Hey, kid, what are you doing today? I'm like, oh, nothing. I was going to cut the grass. Or what do you need, Ed? He goes, come on down and meet me in my office. Ed's office was right inside the museum.
Yep.
And it was just a little room off the museum. And I would go down there and sit with him for hours, and he would go over stuff with me. And, hey, this is what we did on this case. We'd go into the museum, and that's where I first held Annabelle over here. That's the good twin sister. But,
yep.
But the doll Annabelle, and I was creeped out by it. But he's like, oh, go ahead, you can hold her for a second. Don't waltz with her. And but he would show me the dinosaur from the Galazzo case and the Brookfield case, and and the witch doll or the satanic doll that they found in the woods.
The shadow doll.
The shadow doll also, but the satanic doll with the horns and stuff.
Yeah.
And Hannah.
Actually, I got more from the shadow doll than I ever got from Annabelle.
Yeah.
I felt more uncomfortable around the shadow doll than I did Annabelle.
Yeah, that doll was, from what I understand, was involved in some seriously bad rituals, satanic rituals and stuff like that. And that's where I was introduced to demonology, and I learned through Ed about demons. I mean, demons are angels; they're just fallen angels, and there's a hierarchy. There's a whole hierarchy, and you got to know what you're dealing with. And it saddens me and it confuses me today when I see these shows of these YouTubers, and like, if this is the gates of hell, why don't you rise up and get me? I'm like, dude, you have no idea what you're doing. That's you're provoking, you're conjuring. And these things don't make a decision. Oh, he's just kidding. No, you just opened the door.
No.
I
No.
have a whole segment in my lectures where I talk about divination. And, maybe Jeff won't like me on this one, but I talk about Ouija boards or spirit boards or talking boards. I talk about the dangers around those. And, it's all about free will and intention, and if you use these things improperly, how that can lead to something more sinister and, eventually some kind of maybe diabolical attachment. I'm not
That's
saying
what I
if
was
you
gonna
ever use
say.
the Ouija board, you're going to have a problem. I'm just saying that why roll the dice and take a chance?
That's what I was going to say, because like the Ouija boards and the spirit boards and things like that, it's all about intention. You're going to get what you put out to it.
Yep.
So,
and free will.
That's the same thing.
Will,
yeah.
I'm sorry, Russ.
No, you're fine. I mean, it's the same thing with an investigation. The energy you put out is what you're going to get back.
I can't help myself sometimes because I'm so used to talking about this stuff. It's like I could roll out of bed, brush my teeth, and just start talking about this because I've been doing it for so long.
No,
but
please do. Like, honestly,
I care about my fellow colleagues out there, investigators. I like to be called the paranormal researcher because investigations is part of the research. The last thing you want to do is load up the mystery machine and grab Scooby-Doo. All right. You don't need to have 12 people descend on somebody's house. And I was like, well, what the hell's going on? This is a hostile takeover or something. I said, no. I said, you need to find out. I come from a safety background. I worked for Comcast for 30 years. I was a safety professional. And I always do what they call the root cause analysis, the why tree. It's like, okay, you're telling me what you're experiencing. You're telling me what's happening. All right, let's figure out why it's happening. It's like, okay, how long have you lived in this house? Well, we've been here 20 years. Well, when did the activity start or alleged activity start? Oh, about 3 years ago. Okay, so let's start right here and move backwards 3 years. What happened?
What's changed at the time? What happened?
What's changed? Is there a significant event? Was there a traumatic event? Was there any kind of drugs or alcohol or addiction or sexual addiction, pornography? I mean, and I tell people, I say, I don't say that to be a smartass. I say that because any addiction is a doorway or can be a doorway, and then if you couple that with a physical or mental illness, some form of psychosis, and I cite examples. I actually, in my lecture, I show footage of exorcism and how the afflicted person became possessed. What was that doorway that they'd opened that let this in? For example, The Exorcist. How many people have not seen the movie The Exorcist? All right. Most people have seen it, and if you haven't seen it, then you have homework. But you have to do it at 2:00 in the morning in the pitch dark all by yourself.
Very true. Do not grab popcorn because it'll be all over the living room.
And I laughed my ass off through that one. But the true story behind it, how many people actually know that? All right. It was a 14-year-old boy back in 1949, and his name was Ronald Edwin Hunkeler. Now, you can Google this. I mean, I just researched it for my lectures.
Love you.
And Ronald was brought into...
Love you, Kim.
This was... Yeah, my wife's going to work.
Oh.
Love
you, Laurel.
Ronald was brought into this through the use of a Ouija board. His aunt was a spiritualist, and he was very close to his aunt. And she used the board as her mechanism to speak with spirits. And, what a great idea to bring my 14-year-old nephew on board, right? So what happened was she eventually passed away. So what does young Ronald do is he continues to use the board to talk to her. Well, he becomes possessed somewhere along the line. And it took, I think if I did my research correctly, it took about 67 exorcisms to liberate him. And he was lucky because a lot of exorcisms are not successful. And if people think that an exorcism is just about sprinkling some holy water and just reading a bunch of prayers and everything's hunky-dory, no. I mean, Father Amorth from, the Pope's exorcist, I remember during an interview mentioned the average is 3 to 5 years, and that's only if they're lucky and they're successful at liberating them. So Ronald was lucky. He went on to be a NASA engineer, and he only just passed away in 2020. So I talk a lot about that case because that started with the use of a Ouija board. But again, it's all about that free will and the intention, behind it. And, when we talk about divination, which is basically, seeking seeking knowledge of future events or future knowledge of things that we're not supposed to know, in my opinion. I asked my audience, I said, if anyone here was given the opportunity to know the date, the time, and the manner of their own death, would you want to know? I mean, would you guys want to know?
Yes.
If you would?
I would.
Okay.
I would.
I respect that.
Because I want to live I kind of live every day as it's the last day anyways, because tomorrow's never promised. But
That's
if
true.
I knew there was a direct time and place and whatever, I wouldn't try to cheat death because it's my time.
And that's interesting. People
for me, it's something totally different. I can never know that. So the idea that there is a time I'm supposed to die presupposes predestination, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there is my time, that means it was already written, right? And so for me, if I knew my time, between here and there,
You would go absolutely ape shit.
I'd be an unmitigated menace.
Yeah. And because most people would agree with you, Ian. Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna die. Like, all right, you need a soldier? Here you go. I'm perfect. Like, we need to jump this motorcycle over the Grand Canyon. I got you. So for me, there's way too much the idea that everyone has a time to go, like predetermined, that could be known, I think is problematic in and of itself.
So Ian, you would live every day like a daredevil and like, hey, I'm gonna go anyways, but it's not my time, so I'm just gonna do something stupid.
Well, yeah. Why not? Like, if you genuinely know, because this is the whole concept. Like, if you truly knew there were no consequences to your actions whatsoever,
what would you do?
How do you find a morality? Right? So, like, if I know I can't die, I no longer have a sense of compass or decency. No, I don't want to say decency. The only show that's unauthorized and illegal is the gun show.
Knew this was coming.
So no, I think it would be too problematic. But I would actually love, and I don't want to derail the entire show, to briefly argue with you that biblically speaking,
Laurel, give him a kiss.
Russ said, "Give me." I got my head. She can't hear you.
I gotta go. Love you.
I gave you props, so.
Oh, thank you.
I'm in your good graces. Okay. Sorry, guys.
Everyone, a round of applause for Laurel.
You just got a round of applause from everybody. She's my rock. She really is. Sorry, Ian. Apologize.
No problem.
No.
I would love to just take a moment and argue that knowledge of the future is actually something we're supposed to have. Not maybe necessarily to the extent of like knowing one's death date or your own predestination, but major events. And I actually, well, Thomas, that's funny because that would then require God to have been wrong at some point for him to be mine. And infallibility is a key. Raised Catholic, Joe. Except I actually did take the time to read the book. But of the 12 ministries given to man, prophecy is one of them. And so the idea that we aren't supposed to be able to have this knowledge, or we aren't supposed to prophesy the future, comes from more of the Old Testament in the Torah, with the Pharisees speaking out against the fortune tellers and the soothsayers.
Right, and it's actually in Deuteronomy. It says, you shouldn't The Bible speaks against that, against
Well,
soothsayers,
it
necromancers,
says
and stuff like that.
Deuteronomy is when it speaks out against witchcraft and in dealings with the devil.
Sorceries and things like that. Yeah. What do you got?
Correct. But in
yeah.
the New Testament, with
Yeah.
the covenant of the Torah being filled, and Christ having died and risen, completing the promises made in the Torah, the New Testament very explicitly describes the 12 ministries given to man by the Holy Spirit on the sacrifice of Jesus. One of which, obviously, you have not parable. Oh my goodness, you have I'm forgetting the biblical word for it, but it's anecdotes. To be able to share your story and testimony. That's the one, testimony. But also in prophecy. So,
right. Well, I believe that prophecy, or for example, psychic mediums.
Yep.
There's a difference in my humble opinion. There's a difference between divination and miracles. So, example, if you're doing a reading for a client and you received a message from the other side, that's a gift. That's a miracle. That's a gift for that person. As opposed to saying, give me Friday night's 6 lotto numbers. This is information that we're not meant to have. But God would allow certain information to come to us. I believe that our futures are known, like you said, but God knows our future, but we're not meant to. So I don't believe we're meant to know how we're going to die or when we're going to die. I personally wouldn't want to know, because of my luck. I walk outside to get the mail and I get hit by a bus, with my luck. But that's the difference between, when someone's practicing divination, which could be Ouija board, seems to be the most common tool, but it could be seances, it could be, crystal balls or divining rods, tarot cards. I'm not saying the people that use these things are probably very gifted and they're knowledgeable and they're protected and grounded and all that. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're walking around an old abandoned building and you're like, even if you're doing a spirit box session, if there's anybody here that wants to talk to us, come on through. Well, you're opening that door. And you don't know
there's somebody there. Through. You just don't know.
You don't know what's coming through, but it's probably not what you're thinking. It could be something more sinister. I'm not saying that's going to happen every time, but I'm saying is you're spinning the wheel and you're taking a chance. And if you do this long enough, you play with fire, you're going to get burnt eventually, right? And those are some of the cases that we get involved in. Now it's too late. Now it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've been contacted by a paranormal team. Oh, Joe, my friends and I were out last Friday night in a cemetery with a Ouija board. And I'm like, well, why? I'm like, what were you doing there? Something followed us home, or something got attached to one of us, and something dark and sinister. And now this and this and this is happening. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? I said, it's, those are the people that frustrate me. It's like, it's like Mr. Miyagi said to Daniel-san, the best defense, no be there. Don't invite this stuff into your life. Don't conjure, don't provoke things. It's like we mock what we don't understand. And, it frustrates me because sometimes it's too late now. Now you have an issue. I said, if you get some kind of attachment, it doesn't have to be demonic. Then everybody uses the word demonic and exorcism. They throw these terms around very loosely. It doesn't necessarily mean something's bad, that it's evil, it's demonic. It could be, but it could be just a very negative earthbound spirit or something that you pissed off, or maybe was miserable in life. Now they're miserable in death. But
so this leads me to a perfect segue, because Ian is very meticulous. He always writes out questions prior to the interview and everything. And he sent me one, and one that actually stood out to me. And you brought it up multiple times during this interview. What's your stance on the paranormal investigations, on how they're portrayed in the media? Because you're out there now tossing around the demon word and everything like that. And, that's what gets the clicks and the views and things like that. But how do you feel personally about how the paranormal investigation field, the paranormal field itself, is
Yeah.
being portrayed in the media.
Well, it's almost like, dare I say, a cookie cutter approach. Everybody's kind of doing it, the same way, and everyone descends on a place with all their toys and equipment. I don't use this stuff. I don't use cat balls. I don't use REM pods. I never had that stuff, Grok. I have a small toolkit that I use. I have a camera. I have a recorder. I have a flashlight. I have holy water. I have my Bible. Because I got to be prepared for everything. When I go on a case, I have to be in a state of absolution. I don't know if I'm dealing with nothing, rats in the attic, or am I dealing with, Lucifer himself,
Crawling down the floorboards at 3 a.m.
The way investigations are portrayed, everyone has their own style. I have my own style. But the investigation portion of it, as I mentioned earlier, is part of the research. So many times I'll do more investigating during the research phase before I even visit the home. And I say home because I really don't investigate buildings or public places, especially abandoned places. I don't, that's not what I do. If that's your thing, that's fine. I'm not knocking anybody that does that. Just got to be careful. I'd be more afraid of the physical safety issues, like the building falling down on me or falling through a floorboard, or maybe a homeless person attacking you or something.
Other humans.
I'd be more afraid of other human beings, right? But all the TV shows that have come out, God, since I guess Sightings, and maybe before that, Twilight Zone or something like that.
Oh man, I forgot.
It's almost like every
Sightings. Holy shit!
I forgot about that show
with Tim White. I mean, there's a way that I do things. You have to research the property, the home, the property, the history of the property, the land, the geographics, the topographics. All that stuff has to be brought to the table. I say it's like taking a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and throwing it on the table, and little by little you start putting the pieces together and see what fits. Psychic mediums we use as a tool, but we don't base the entire case on what they say. Whatever information might come into, and we have a lot of gifted mediums in our organization, and I'll reach out to 6 or 7 of them independent of one another. We won't just have a big Zoom call. I'll say, here's the address. Can you remote in and tell me what your thoughts are? Send me a couple of bullet points. And I'll do that for each person. And then I'll bring it all in. And a lot of times, there'll be a lot of consistencies there, and they don't know that they're all working on the same case together. But I do that on purpose. Then when I do finally interview the family, I'll interview them separately. And a lot of times I'll have a husband and wife, and I'll talk to the wife.
You don't want that coercion there.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's like good cop, bad cop kind of thing. It's like, tell me what's going on, and they give you a laundry list of things they experience. And I'll talk to the husband. I don't know, she's crazy. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything, or vice versa. Or maybe they are both experiencing the same thing. This case I'm working on now outside Philadelphia, the husband was a complete skeptic. And the wife she's a very well-educated woman, ex-military. She was an MP. Went to Rutgers University, I believe it was, if I remember correctly. Very smart, intelligent woman. And I spent an hour or so on the phone with her just getting some basics. They got 3 young children, 6, 3, and 2. And she's like, I'm terrified for my children. My children are being attacked. She's physically watched them being pulled in their cribs and in their beds, and their arms being twisted. She said, I was holding the baby, the 2-year-old, and she felt like something was pulling it out of her arms. And this woman wasn't making this up. I could tell. My good friend Tom Gormley talked to her. So Father Bob and I got on a call with her one night, and we were on the phone with her for an hour and a half. And we started talking and said, well, what have you done so far? And she's like, well, I paid this psychic medium to come in here, and she paid her a lot of money. I don't know how much money. And now the woman won't return her phone calls. She got a hold of the church. A priest did come out and give her some very blessed items and basically said, good luck. And I'm like, okay, so everyone that's tried to help her has abandoned her at some point. She had a group out of New Jersey. I won't mention who they are, but she mentioned, she told me about this group in New Jersey that came out. They set up their equipment. They were there for a few hours. Something spooked them, and they grabbed their stuff and left. And I'm like, whoa. So she was afraid that, because she hadn't heard from me in a couple of days because I was busy doing some stuff and traveling. I went to MegaCon and all that. And she sent me a message. She goes, Joe, I didn't scare you away, did I? I said, no, dear. I said, I'm here. I said, I've had a couple of events to do. I said, and I wouldn't be able to get back to you until I got back from Florida. So Father Bob and I spent some time on the phone. I know Tom and Stacia gave her some information. And I said, this is what I want you to do. And I gave her some advice. And I said, the first night I told her about, so I want you to take the holy water. I want you to do this. I want you to pray with the kids. The kids aren't baptized either, and depending on your faith, I'm Roman Catholic, born and raised, and taught by the Warrens, who were very Roman Catholic. I said, honey, you need to get those kids baptized. That's their first protection right there. So the kids seem to be the targets. Now, you got children. I mean, my children are all grown and they're all adults now, but Papa Bear comes out. You don't touch my kids, and they felt helpless. So we gave her this advice, and I said, do this tonight, okay? And I'm going to call you tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, and either you're going to tell me one of two things. Either you haven't slept this well in months, or all hell is going to break loose in that house, okay? And fortunately, it was the former. I called. She's like, Joe, I did exactly what you told me to do. And she goes, we haven't slept that well in like 3 years. So this is one of those cases where they've been in this house for 13 years, but the activity started about 3.5 years ago when her middle son was born. And the middle son, she said, was kind of like an oops. They weren't planning on it, but she got pregnant. And there was some family dynamics going on. I can't get into really any details, but
no, I don't want you to spare any confidential details.
No,
or anything.
well, no, but there was a form of abuse, which was a doorway, and that happened right around that time when this stuff, and they would hear growling. She would see black masses. She would have foul smells. So Father and I were talking on the phone. I said, it sounds on the surface as a case of demonic oppression. There's different stages of possession. You have vexation, infestation, obsession, oppression, and then possession. But doesn't mean it's going to go to possession, but it could.
Could.
So I'm watching the case very closely. I told her, here's my phone number. I said, I don't care what time of the day and night it is. If something significant happens that is paranormal in nature, and what I mean by that is that which is outside explanation, scientific explanation. That word paranormal, a lot of people don't even understand what that means. Para meaning above, normal. All right. I tell people, always look for a natural explanation first. Don't take the nuclear option and go, I've got a demon here. That's all you see on YouTube these days. It's crazy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm only going to ask this because you just brought that up, right? Like, don't assume, the nuclear option here. Do you typically ask for folks to like seek any kind of counseling or get evaluated at all during these processes, or no?
Absolutely. One of our conditions of helping people is that they have to get a full physical and psychological evaluation. Okay. That is something that we require, and then any necessary paperwork needs to be signed to be able to share that information with us. And I tell people
the reason I ask, the reason I ask is I've seen other demonologists, and I say that very condescendingly, intentionally, where they purport themselves to be demonologists, and they tout themselves as this individual or this specialist, and there's never a conversation about the psychological aspect of it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's mostly because that will potentially lower their credibility as actual spiritualists, right? So, if you have this person who clearly is suffering PTSD and that's manifesting through a bit of a psychotic break, they can be the demonologist to come in and help these people.
You couldn't be more right than what you just said.
And so I've talked to Russ about this, and this is why I actually, quite the opposite of you, refuse to do residential. Because now we're toying with someone's actual life.
Right.
And
Right. I say that
so,
all the time. You're messing with
and
people's
yeah,
emotions and their lives.
I
So,
am very critical on what private investigations that I help out on, because I've been sourced to help out on private investigations with another team and everything, and I've always picked and choose very correctly with it. And thankfully enough, the cases that I've worked on have been lower level, like just your basic haunting and things like that. Nothing that has really dealt with
well,
I
but
came
I
close
mean,
to
I
an
think,
oppression once.
and I think it's important to not delineate between, as you guys have said, like a demonic oppression or just a haunting, right? Because an underlying psychological issue that's not being addressed because it's being projected onto this paranormal instance, there is no difference between a haunting and a demonic possession when you're dealing with a psychotic episode. Because you're still dealing with someone that is having severe unresolved issues that's realistically being enabled by these visiting authorities who take no moment to consider the ramifications of what they're doing. And so yeah, that's sorry. I got a little
no. It's almost like you're a brother from another mother, because this is what I tell folks. Let me give you another example. Just last week, we had a phone call with a gentleman from Connecticut, another case that came in through the church. And this gentleman was saying that he felt that his 18-year-old son had a demonic attachment. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I set up a call, and we're talking to the gentleman, and the conversation went south rather quickly. The gentleman was very triggered very easily. And when we really got down to the root of the issue, it was more or less his issue, where it was abandonment issues he was dealing with as a child. He was abandoned by his father at 7 years old. His mother had cancer when he was 11 years old, lived with his maternal grandparents, didn't have a father figure, ended up going to prison a couple of times in his youth, in and out of prison. So it turned into, when he was a young man, maybe in his late teens, early 20s, he was talking about alien abduction and seeing these creatures and people following him, or what looked like people. But he said they were gray and scaly. This one time he was in the backyard and he felt himself being lifted up, and he got thrown onto this metal table, and these creatures are around him. So now we're going from, your son having an issue, who in my opinion, based on what he told me, was just typical teenage rebellious activity. Okay.
Yeah.
But I have a point. So I said to him, I said, well, have you talked to anyone? Have you sought professional help? Well, no, I don't want to do that. I said, well, wait a minute. I said, you're calling me, you're looking for my help, and I'm happy to help you. I said, but every time I suggest something, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm like, well, have you talked to your priest? He won't talk to me. He won't return my calls. I said, well, have you tried going down to the rectory? I don't know a priest that would turn his back on one of his flock, and this is a church that I grew up near in Connecticut. And I said, well, have you had a psychological evaluation? Well, why would I need that? I said, well, listen, I said, I believe that you believe this has all happened. And he got offended by that. And he's like, well, wait a minute, did you just say you believe that I believe this to be true? I go, yeah, you do believe it to be true. I said, it doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. I said, but if you are unwilling to seek psychological care and at least get evaluated, I said, why are you taking that so-called nuclear option and saying, I got a demon in my home?
Yep.
And, so the guy, he was struggling to be respectful to me, because I was starting to get a little upset, but, it takes a lot for me to get there. And I'm like, look, everything I've suggested, I asked him if he's gone through any kind of hypnotherapy. Wouldn't do it. I'm not being put under. I said, it sounds like you have a lot of unresolved issues from your childhood. I said, I don't think you have a paranormal problem. I said, just based on what you've told me. And he was very, I don't want to use the word combative, but it's almost like he had
Reluctant.
Exactly. He was reluctant.
here's
He
the
didn't
thing.
want to listen to what I had to say. He wanted me to just believe hook, line, and sinker that he had this issue. And
Well, so
that's
Joe,
not what I do.
for me, one of the biggest signs there, right, is when you're dealing with someone that is definitely having a psychological moment, right? Like they're having that phase for them. Anyone that confronts them with data that does not provide them the valid scapegoat is jeopardizing the reality that they're trying to live in the moment. And so it's not like, it's not that, because I say the same thing to people. I do not disbelieve people's experiences. I believe everyone experienced exactly what they're explaining to me. I just don't believe that I would have experienced it if I was standing next to you. Right. And so when you confront the mentally ill with a, hey, this might be in here, not out here, there's an accountability that they're being forced to see or forced to take, that then becomes the problem, that becomes the underlying enemy.
Exactly.
And accountability, honestly, 9 times out of 10 in a psychological break, accountability for the psychological break is the thing that's pushing them to go further down the rabbit hole.
Well,
sorry.
I would no, I was. You're exactly right. I was just trying to say, listen. I don't want to mention his name, but let's call him John. I said, listen, you got to be at least open. You're asking for my help. I'm offering you some alternative, but I said, I really think that you should be psychologically evaluated, and that's not a bad thing. I always say the people that I speak to, they believe, like you just said, they believe that this is really happening to them. So they're not making it up, and they're not lying to me. I'd be able to tell right away if they're lying, but why would you do that? But they don't necessarily have a paranormal affliction, but they believe they do. And with that being said, you could have a psychological issue and have a demonic issue. It's very rare. I will say that demonic activity is very rare, and possession is rarer still, but it does exist. I've seen it, but it's rare. But I was just trying to help this gentleman understand that there may be another issue here, but he just wasn't having it. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to take any advice, I said, then what would you like me to do for you? I said, you're not even open to the idea. And I said, I'm not trying to insult you. I said, I'm trying to help you. And then he told me, he goes, well, I have photographic and video evidence of like spaceship, this triangular lights over my house. I said, well, could you send it to me? Oh, no, I'm not sending it over to you. I'm not going to email it. I'm not going to. I said, well, I need to see it. My colleagues and I would need to see this. If you say you have some kind of evidence or proof.
Ian has something queued up already. I know, with just that eye movement and the face. I know.
No,
queued up.
No. I've just dealt with individuals like that before, and
it's difficult because I'm like, well, he's like, well, Joe, you live in Connecticut. Can I meet up with you? I said, well, if you want to put it on a thumb drive or something, that's fine, but I'm going to have to share it with my colleagues. I said, which means I'm going to have to, but I wouldn't do that without your permission. I wouldn't, if you don't want it sent, I'm going to respect that. But I said, you're not willing to do anything we're asking you to do. So I was at a loss. We were on the phone for about 2 hours. And we had after the gentleman got off the line, my colleagues and I were talking, and Father Bob was on there too. And I'm like, I really feel for this guy because I know he really believes all this in his head, but so it's a reality to him. But he wasn't open to getting checked out, and maybe he was afraid that he'd find out that it wasn't reality, it was something else. But so the other thing was, he said he had 6 children and his wife, and they were all affected by this. Now, only 2 of the children were of age. The other children were underage. He said, well, would we be able to speak to the children? Because he said the children had some limited experiences as well. No, I don't want to involve my kids. I'm like, well, I need to speak to everyone involved.
Yeah.
Even the adult children, one was 18, one was 24. No, I don't want to involve my kids. And he obviously wouldn't give us permission to talk to the younger kids who were age, I think, 14 through 16 or something like that. So I really was at a loss. And I said, well, there's really not much I can do. I said, yeah, I agree that you need some help, but it may not be the type of help I can provide. You know, I was trying to steer him in the right direction, but he just was putting up a wall, a roadblock at every turn.
And unfortunately, in the field that we're in, that's kind of where it goes. Is like these people have to want to help themselves to begin with.
Exactly.
And you know, if they don't want to help themselves, there's nothing we can do to push them towards that, because like any addict or anything like that, you want to help yourself. You to get clean or to get whatever results you need, you want to, in your mind, help yourself first.
I mean, my heart went out to this gentleman. I wanted to help him, but
there's a self-determination necessary for growth, right, and for change, and that, you know, coming from a biblical place as well. You know, you want to talk about self-determination. I mean, we could talk the parable of the talents, the three servants with the talents. I don't know if you know that one, Joe. I'm assuming you have like a huge Bible knowledge, and I probably shouldn't do that.
I don't know the Bible like you do, but I'm sure I've heard the story at one point through my.
It's off things like
the three servants are all given money effectively, and they're told to take care of the money for their master. And you know, two of them like invest, buy silk and do things and turn the money into more, and one of them just buries it and hides it so he doesn't lose it. And he's the one that's punished because the other two were able to grow the funds and to do things with them and use their knowledge and their intelligence to actually better the situation. But it's all about self-determination, I think, at the end of the day. And truthfully, whether it's this field, another field, or any other human facing field or profession or hobby, you can't, like, you can you can lead the horse, you can't make it drink.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, I've got a friend of mine who I love dearly, who is a heavy smoker. And you know, recently he was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and his doctors obviously said you really need to quit. And you know, and he's like, I said, look, I'm just a big pain in the ass unless you want to quit. I said, I'd love to see you quit for your health, you know, and extend your life, your longevity. I said, but you know, unless you want to quit yourself, I'm just a nag, you know. So it's like, you know, the Lord helps those that help themselves. It's like, but if you want help, when you're ready to quit, I'm going to be there for you as your friend. I said, and I hope that's sooner than later, before you find out you've got, you know, some kind of illness or disease because of it. You know, it's like me, you know, not wanting to stop eating chocolate chip cookies. I mean, it's just not in the cards. You know, but you know, this gentleman, and I do have another call I'm going to schedule with him, with one of our licensed psychologists, and I want her to speak to him because we want to cover all the bases. I don't want to give up on him, but you know, I at this time I'm going to be there for him, but I got to back away because that's not my area of specialty. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. You know, I'm a paranormal.
Well, and you run the risk of doing so much more harm than good.
True. But you know, the team that we have between the Warren Society and Wardruna, and I'm also part of the Solomonic Order of St. Michael the Archangel with Father Ken and Father Bob. You know, we have many avenues and many people we could reach out to help them. And I would just back away at that point and said, you know, speak to Kristen and see if she can help you. But if he's not going to listen to her, at that point, I gotta say, look, there's nothing I could do for you unless you're gonna listen to me. And I've come across many cases like this, but this guy was really adamant. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. Like, okay, you know, eventually you run out of options, or at least I did. You know, it's like, well, geez, I suggested this and this and this, and you don't want to do it, or you're refusing to do it. What would you like me to do for you? Well, I want it to stop. You want what to stop? Well, the nightmares. I'm like, well, look, I'm giving you the best suggestions that I know, right now. And if you're not going to take them seriously, or at least entertain them, I said, I can't help you. And I hate to say that. The last thing I want to tell someone is I can't help you, or at least if I can't help them personally, I can point you in the right direction. So that's why I'm
always the worst
setting up
case. That's always literally the worst case, is just sitting there going, I don't know what to do. And
It
like
breaks my
I
heart.
always tell, yeah, like I always tell everybody, I may, I've been in this field for 27 years. I don't know everything. I'm not a professional. I'm no expert by any means. But if you have a question that I don't know, I can guarantee you I know the people that can figure out the question for you.
I'll find the answer for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I say
And
the
that's
same
the
thing.
great thing about the community.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the people in the community whose hearts are in the right place will be more than willing to help you. And
Yes.
it's a collaborative effort. And there's a lot of good people like you guys, like me, like John, like Tom, like Stacia. There's a lot of good, knowledgeable people out there that want to help. And we're doing this as a labor of love. It's not for money or fame or anything like that. I mean, back in 2001, 2002, I got an email from Pilgrim Films. They wanted me to come out, my buddy and I, to fly out to film for a show called Ghost Hunters. I turned them down. I thought about it for about a week, and I said, you know what? I had twin daughters that were 2 years old at the time. My son was 4 or 5. I said, I got a face for radio. I didn't want a TV show. Of course, I didn't know what it was going to turn into 20 some odd years later, but I probably wouldn't have lasted because it's not what I do. And I don't have any regrets.
Joe, can you go ahead and recreate this for me in like 32 seconds and give me your real reaction of what happened during that event, just based off your recollection, your memory of what happened during that? Can you just recreate that for us so we can film it? That's where I'd lose it. Like, I'd be like, no, because you're not getting another reaction.
I thought you were asking me a question. Yeah,
I honestly, no, Joe, I'm over here with you. Like, Russ, what the fuck are you doing right now? Like,
no, he had me going.
No, because I was asked the same thing, because I was actually interviewed for Ghost Hunters the second round for the, when Jason and all them left. I was actually interviewed for that, and they asked me during the interview, can you recreate what had happened? And I said no. Plain and simple. Like, there's no natural reaction to what happened when it happened.
Yeah, I just, I'm not knocking anybody that's been on a show or had a show.
No, not at all.
It's not for me. It's not what I do. I'm not in it for money or fame. That's why people are like, oh, Joe, I never heard of you. Well, that's fine. I'm not offended by that. I don't consider myself a palatable celebrity at all. But what I am is someone that knows what he's been doing for 40 years. I mean, I've put in my time. These days, matter of fact, John and I were just talking about this not long ago. I said, John, the problem I see in the community today is people don't want to put in the 40, or in your case, 50 plus years. They just want instant fame and notoriety. And now with social media, and I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm not going to have one. I have a TikTok account my daughter set up. I've never used it because I don't know how to use it. I mean, I don't care about that stuff. I just what I care about is people that need my help find me. But it's like you have to go through the sea of weeds to find the flowers. And you're going through all these paranormal teams that are tripping over themselves to get in somebody's house, and they're playing with their emotions. And I said, you're playing with people's lives. Why would you tell these people they have a portal to hell in their closet, and you're scared the crap out of them when it's not true? And then
it's all for ratings and clicks.
Exactly, and that's what frustrates me. But there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just a little fish in a very big sea. I just hope the people that really need our help will find one of us that honestly knows what they're doing, or at least, if we don't, we could work together on it and collaborate, and not have to worry about one-upsmanship or egos or getting to the top of the Google list. I don't care about that stuff.
You nailed it right there on the head. You said one word, and that's what it is. It's the egos in the field.
Yeah, it's a shame. And I would never mention any names, but those people know who they are. And shame
I would.
Ian's over here. I don't give a fuck. All right,
don't
Joe.
know.
So I have one question for you.
Yeah.
The show's coming towards an end here.
Oh, really?
I got. Yep. We're only on for an hour. We're 15 minutes over, but I'm
Oh, I'm
completely
sorry.
fine with
I
that.
get long-winded.
No. Don't be sorry. I'm enjoying the conversation every word at a time. Give us one of your favorite memories of Ed and Lorraine, because there's a lot of people out there listening that know who Ed and Lorraine are. I mean, they're pioneers in the field. They're out there with Hans Halser and everything like that. Give us a memory that you shared with them that was not them being serious, like during an investigation or something like that. Just something that people would find funny about Ed and Lorraine, because everybody looks at Ed and Lorraine as like such a serious, like focused, down to earth, like people.
Well, I've got so many memories. I will say, I'll preface it with this. The Warrens were wonderful people. The Warrens were my age that I am now when I met them. So for me, it's come full circle. They were normal. To me, I called them Graham and Gramps. They were like grandparents to me. So I knew them intimately outside of the whole paranormal stuff. That's why it hurts me deeply when I hear people speak ill about them, especially since they're dead and they can't defend themselves. But it's like, look, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I respect that. But make sure it's an informed opinion. All right, just because you saw something on the internet or you read something here or there, somebody told you a story. The Warrens are really good people. I work shoulder to shoulder with these people. I've laughed with them. I've cried with them. Okay, so if you really never met them, and most of the people I'm talking about never even met them, especially Ed because he passed away so long ago. But I have some fond memories of them. I'll tell you one where we did it wasn't an investigation, but it was the Night of the Haunted. Every Halloween they would have an event. And I also doubled as their security. I mean, I was 6'3", 350 pounds back in the day, bench pressing cars. Now I'm old. I use balloons now. But I doubled as their security because back then they had some people that, what we call liquid courage, and they'd have one too many to drink and they'd start heckling. And I would just say, hey, look, you paid to see a show. I understand that, but so did everybody else. Keep it down, or I'm going to have to ask you to leave. So anyway, Ed and I put this thing together, and this is the human side of Ed. He was a great, great guy. And so at one of the events in Bethel, Connecticut, at the Stony Hill Inn, we concocted this thing where I opened the back door prior to everyone getting there. And I put a rock in the door so I can sneak around. And there was a certain point in the show where I snuck out. I went into the bathroom and I changed. I put on sandals, black sweatpants, black shirt. I had a black cloak and a hood and this mask that when you shined a light on it, it would glow. So I sneak around the back of the building and I had a side out there that I had planted. And at a certain point in the show, Ed's up there talking. There must have been 150 people there. It was huge hall. And I sneak in the back door undetected. Okay. And I'm standing in the back of the room with this mask glowing. And I'm standing there with this side, like the Grim Reaper. And all of a sudden, Ed's like, he's looking at the back of the room and goes, "What are you doing here? Get the hell out of here. Who are you here for?" He starts yelling at me. So I raised the bony finger like this and I pointed it to him. And I slowly walked up and he clutches his chest. I take the cloak and I swooped it over him and I took him out through the door. The crowd went crazy for it. It was just great. It was just a lot of fun. They were really fun, down-to-earth people, but when they were on investigations, they were very serious. He would say, "Joe, I'll take your recorder, go down to the basement," because everything happens in the basement, right? Go down to the basement and just place your recorder there and just sit there and see if anything happens. Have your camera on and your video camera, or it was the attic or something. And 9 times out of 10, as you guys know, nothing would happen. You hear a noise.
You're just sitting there.
I do that to my audience. I'm like, because you all know the face, right? It's like,
yep.
That was the ice machine kicking on. Come on.
We almost had a thumbnail there, Joe. Like your face there. We almost had a thumbnail for the episode.
I'm not gonna lie, Joe. That is one of the reasons I love hosting investigations at the hall, and also why I think a lot of people don't like me as a host. because halfway through the night in this hall that was built in 1899,
Yeah.
it's 35 degrees out, and we have the heat set on 60. You hear coming from every corner of the room from the radiated heat. Yeah. And people are like, oh, did you hear that? And I go, yeah. And unless you want to freeze, we're going to continue hearing it for the rest of the night. It's just the heat.
Yep.
Yeah, but
because I mean,
these people pass this along as gospel truth that is paranormal activity. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is it drives me crazy. I mean, if you preface your show or your YouTube channel with this is for entertainment purposes only, I would have more respect for you. But
100%.
You know, but the people that fake stuff for profit, I mean, there's a word for that. It's called fraud.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I mean, there were charges against that at one point. Like, but now because it's all clickbait and advertising, it's not considered. It's not considered chicanery anymore. It's not considered.
Even some of these debunkers out there, that you know, Beardo, Side-Eye Guy. I mean, I agree with most of what these guys come up with. What I don't agree with is that they don't have good things to say about the Warrens, and it drives me bananas. I'm like, if you knew them intimately as people, you'd probably have a different perspective, you know. But I'm not going to waste my time or energy to change their mind. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, they're entitled to their opinion, but you know, they're not giving you an informed opinion. You know,
but they're getting paid on hate. Like that's their platform.
That's true.
That's their money. That is their money. If they said, you know what, all these people are assholes, but Ed and Lorraine were actually good people, they'd lose subscribers, and that's all they're there for.
Well, and you know what? I guess I always say it's not illegal, but it's immoral, in my opinion, and I don't.
100%.
I just you know, a friend of mine has a podcast out in Ohio, and he had me on the show for 3 hours one night, and he said, Joe, I want to warn you. He said that the people that are going to be on there, they love you, but they hate the Warrens. And so he said, I'm going to have someone moderating the questions and make sure. I said, no, let the questions come. Just let them come.
Yeah.
I said, I hope everyone's going to be respectful. And they were. The people were wonderful. They were. Some people had some questions. I said, you know, that's a good question. But you're talking about something that was alleged long before I met the Warrens. Matter of fact, I think I was 2 years old. I cannot speak intelligently about that, but I can speak intelligently of the character of the people I knew. Okay. And that, what you just said, you know, I would say to them, sounds completely out of character of Ed Warren. I didn't know the man that to be like that. I said, so, you know, I just pleaded with people. I said, give me a chance. I even gave out my personal phone number. You guys might think I'm nuts, but I'm like, here's my phone number. If you have a question about Ed and Lorraine Warren, before you go hating, give me a call and at least give me a chance to answer the question. I haven't got one phone call yet. You know, and I was on his podcast for 3 hours. It went by like 10 minutes. Like this show went by like this. But, you know, I get on my soapbox and I never shut up. But
I have no idea what that's like, Joe.
No idea. No, I don't know anyone like that.
But, I mean, I respect everyone's opinion and the right to have one. But unfortunately, you know, people get in arguments and fights and they put up live events going off on this other group or this other person. And I'm sitting there going, you know how foolish you both look? I'm like, even if you're 1,000% right, you still look like an idiot because you just went and took all your dirty laundry. I said, if I have a problem with somebody, and I've done this, I'll send them a private message through Messenger. I said, hey, you know, it's Joe Franke. I said, I wanted to talk to you about a comment that I saw that you made. Could you give me a call or can I talk to you about it? No one ever wants to talk to me because they're like, oh, shit, Joe's pissed off. I'm like, no, look, I'm a nice guy. I'll talk to you about it, but I don't like to hear the hate out there against anybody.
Joe, I'm not gonna lie. I look very much forward to meeting you in person.
Same, Jen. Same.
Because I had a very similar event. I was at a conference, and there's somebody that I really just don't like. Like just as a human being, I know some of the things they've done. And anytime anyone's ever asked me my
Are they
opinion,
going
I'm
to be
very
there?
candid.
Are they
No,
gonna be there?
I doubt it.
No fights, guys. No fights.
Well, but no, they came up to me at a different event, and Russ was nervous. Russ thought I was gonna escalate the situation.
Show them the guns.
Yeah, and no, he came up to me. He's like, "Look, I just want to make sure we're okay." And I'm like, "Look, dude, I'm gonna be respectful. You've done nothing that's gonna make me disrespect you. I just don't like you. I don't think you're a good person. We will never be friends, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be respectful." Right? Like, I don't have to like you. You don't have to like me. We will be respectful. And that's the end of it.
You just have that common ground. That's it.
Where it's just like, I'm not going to be disrespectful to you. I'm not going to try and hurt you. I'm not going to try and harm you. I'm not going to try and impede you in any way. I don't like you as a person. This doesn't need to happen. And he was struggling to get his head around the fact that, like, I was
there could be
not
common
going to go out of
ground.
my way to hurt him. I was going to be respectful to him. I just don't like him. And I was honest and I was upfront. Like, you and me are never going to be friends. That doesn't mean we have to be enemies.
Yeah. There's a few people that I don't care for. I mean, I may even be friends with them on Facebook, I said, but that doesn't mean I'm taking warm showers to the wee hours of the morning, you know?
Yeah.
But the people that rub me the wrong way are mainly the people that talk ill about my mentors. And I love these people as people. They were good people, and I just wish people would give them a chance. Unfortunately, they're long gone now. God rest their souls. And I just feel like I'm the only one out there defending them sometimes.
And see, Joe, that's what I love about you is you respect them for the people they are, not what they did.
Yeah, or
you have that private eye inside the what's the word I'm looking for? The sanctum, of you saw how they were in real, because I'm sure Ed and Lorraine, I've met both of them before prior. Especially like actually just shortly before Ed's passing. I met Ed, but I've met Lorraine multiple times. Never once had an interaction with them that was considered unapproved or terrible or anything like that. Like, it's one of those things where if people knew who they were as people, not what they saw in news articles and on TV and on film and things like that, they would understand a little bit more why they did what they did.
Exactly. Yeah, you know what? But people are going to hate, whether it be on the Warrens or anybody else. And
we know all about that.
I just want everyone to work together. And, like I always say, if there's anybody that needs my help or just wants to ask me a question, I don't know everything. And the thing is, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to look you in the eye and say, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. But I'll try.
I'm sorry, I don't know, but I know somebody that can probably get you the answer, and I will get you the answer.
And then I'll turn to, one of my colleagues and say, hey, I got asked this question, and maybe we'll find the answer for you. But I mean, don't I won't just throw out some BS line just to, say, oh, geez, I don't want to look stupid or something like that. I don't know everything. Ian, you've impressed me with your knowledge of the Bible. I don't know it that well. Sometimes I've heard stories. I need to be reminded of them, but
Ian is.
It's like
I have a weird. I've got a. Well,
he is. He's a savant.
No, so I was raised Irish Catholic. Got sent to Catholic school. Became a devout atheist who immediately began a crusade against a being that I proclaimed didn't exist. I started a war against God after declaring myself an atheist, which is ironic to an absurd extent. So throughout my time in high school and things like that, I had to become more well-versed in the Bible than the Jesuit priests that were instructing me, and I was constantly in conflict with. And it was a couple of years. I think I was like 22, 23. Came back to faith. Had a lot of healing that needed to be done before I could reconcile myself with God. Kind of that "why'd you do this to me" type nonsense. And then a couple of years later, became ordained in the New Pentecostal Church. Don't have much contact with the Catholic Church anymore. But yeah, no. Now just a man of faith.
That's
And
great.
I don't identify in any particular religion. I think the word of man is flawed. And it's all about the message in the book, not what the guy on the pulpit says it says. So I take umbrage with most organized religions.
I totally respect that.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with this. There was a saying that I remember that Ronald Reagan said, if you remember President Reagan. And he said,
I very much do.
Something to the effect, I don't remember it verbatim, but something to the effect that today it's not only to be equal in the eyes of God, we need to be equal in the eyes of one another. And that's just, if that was true, if more people thought that way, we'd have far less problems in this world. I mean, the way I look at the world and everyone else is we're all brothers and sisters, and we're going to agree, we're going to disagree on things, but we don't need to be killing each other over a piece of land or something like that.
No.
It's just nuts to me. I mean, I love everybody. I don't have an enemy that I know of except maybe Tom, but he doesn't know that yet. I know he's listening. Hey, buddy.
Tom, if you're listening, do not take this out on the podcast. Address that on the side.
I love you, brother. You know that. But
we can have a whole nother episode where you and Tom we can set up a Thunderdome Death style cage.
Let's do it.
We can do that in Maine. We're gonna have the space.
Yes, we can do it in Maine.
Okay.
We'll grab one of those old playground domes.
I'm old. I got titanium knees. I'm gonna soon have titanium shoulders.
You're half bionic.
I'm gonna be like RoboCop.
Well, it's like when in the old the first X-Men movie where he headbutts the guy and you hear the ting.
Yep. From this comment, Thomas is all on it. Tom's all for it.
No, I love Tom. He's a great guy. He's my voice of reason lately.
All right, Joe. So we're heading towards the end of the show here. Tell everyone where they can find you, to reach out to you, how to get a hold of the Warren's Legacy Foundation. We're going to have you back on again because there are things we haven't even touched on that I wanted to get to, but we're on a time constraint.
I'm sorry. That's usually what happens.
No, don't apologize. Trust me, I've enjoyed every minute of this conversation.
I digress a lot and I get off on my tangents because I get into my education mode and
no, you're completely fine.
But if anybody wants to reach me, I'm on Facebook. I'm working on some things. I've got some announcements that are coming up soon. Tom and I are working together on some stuff. But people need to reach me. My email is joe@joefranke.com. And you can reach me, my website, which is still under construction, is joefrankeparanormal.com. Or you can get me through the WarrenLegacyFoundation.com also. But I'm on Facebook. If anyone wants to send me a friend request, I'm very friendly. I don't bite hard.
I was gonna say, not going to throw out your personal phone number on air.
Huh?
I'm kidding. Don't. No, I have it already.
Through Messenger, but no. If anybody has any questions, or God forbid you need my help, or if I can help you in any way, please feel free to reach out.
I really appreciate that, Joe. And you know what?
Thanks,
Thank you so much for coming on tonight. We're going to have to have you back on again because I know Ian, he's over there. I can see his face. He has questions. He wants to dive deeper into things.
I do. It's such a lot of my questions, especially in topics like, so I'm actually starting my show back up because of this.
Perfect for you, Joe.
Where I deep dive into topics with a far more analytical perspective, a little bit less happy chatty, a lot more
your education brain.
Yeah, it's a lot more lecture style, a lot more information deep dives.
Sure.
Really no
kind
banter.
Of a Q&A kind of style.
Yeah. And so no, whenever I talk to a demonologist,
Ian, let's preface this.
Profoundly skeptical.
Ian, let's preface this real
Yep.
quick and tell everyone your opinion on demonologists. And I am throwing you under the bus right now.
Yeah, no, I think it's so. Again, I don't disbelieve in what people experience. I just doubt I would experience the same thing in the same place. And having been raised Catholic and having had extensive in the Bible, my issue with demonology is there were, depending on which gospel you use, there's either 200,000 angels cumulatively, or there is 1 million angels cumulatively, because you have what is it, a myriad of a myriad. You have a myriad of myriads. It's described in one book. And then there's 200 myriads. And if we're using the old Greco measurement of myriad, that means 1,000. So you either have 1,000,000 or you have 200,000. And then when you read about the fall, a third of the angels fell. So now we're taking that off. So now, like, at most, we're dealing with like upper threshold 300,000 demons. And then if we look at the different choirs of angels that are actually capable of impacting or having any kind of real assertion of power, that really is just the top 4 choirs of angels. The top 4 choirs of angels only constituted of 144 angels total. So again, 12 tribes, the whole parallels to the tribes of Israel and things like that. So a third of those are the ones that are capable to actually interact with humanity and to manifest on the physical plane. So you now have under 50 demons that are, and this comes very specifically when talking about possession. Very specifically when talking about possession.
Yeah.
Susan from the HR department in Wisconsin does not seem like prime real estate for a demon possession if the goal is to corrupt the world, right? And so, like,
Hitler would be, or
what's that?
Is Hitler, somebody like Hitler?
A great example. Yeah,
I know he's shoveling coal somewhere down there.
Yeah. So when it's, you know, when it's a young child or it's just a random person in their midlife, right, out in podunk nowhere. And I think that this, again, it's funny to me because the claims of possessions are typically directly inverse of frequency of medical advancement, right? I mean, at one point, and the Catholic Church acknowledges this, at one point, epilepsy was thought to be a demon. You were possessed.
Well, look at Annalise Michel. She had a form of epilepsy, but I believe she was also possessed. So she had a psychological issue, but she also had a demonic issue.
Yeah, and so for me, she seems like a far less important linchpin for 50 demons that are able to operate on a scale of 6 billion targets.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But then again, every soul is important to these beings. They want your soul.
Yeah,
they want as many souls as they can accumulate.
I don't doubt that in the slightest, and I agree with that mentality. I find it hard to believe that a once angelic being would be that short-sighted. So angels also eternal, right? Like, playing the long game here. So maybe it is my narrow perspective of only my short-sighted lifespan, right? That I don't understand why Susan from accounting was so important. And that's just a random, I don't know a Susan in accounting. I'm not wishing ill on anyone.
Damn it, Debbie.
But to me, it's just, it really does. There is so much. And again, the efficacy of placebo treatments in psychological disorders has wild results of efficiency, right? So the sugar pills, the fake treatments and things like that for helping people work through psychological trauma and everything. And even with like the Catholic Catholic exorcism, as you brought up before, can take up to 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like psychological treatment, right? And so everybody on the podcast has said it tonight but me, I don't know everything. I don't plan to. I don't think I ever could, even if I had access to all the information in existence. My brain isn't capable of retaining it.
No, but
There's
you have
so
a lot
many
of
things.
intelligent questions that I tell you, most of these people that proclaim to be demonologists, they wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you.
Well, no, because there's an immediate defensiveness.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I wonder why. Why.
Because there's not a reasonable answer that's just easy stock to pick off of Reddit or to pick off that how to be a demonologist guide. The
Idiot's Guide for Demonology.
Yeah, that's what. So
I mean, taken quite literally, demonology is one who studies the way of demons, but I mean, it goes far deeper than that.
Well, I think the implication of the term demonologist isn't just someone that's studying, right? Like to call yourself a demonologist, especially in the paranormal field, I think comes with a lot more anticipated activity or capabilities, right? And so
you tell a private family, hey, we're bringing in a demonologist on this case. That family is going to lose their absolute shit.
Yeah.
You got to have that gift of discernment, really, too, because you tell someone they've got a demon, and that's irresponsible. Because, like you said before, you could do more harm than good.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a lot of psychological harm to people when you say you have a demon here, or you.
100%.
And I'm like, why would you tell somebody that? Because then someone like me or one of my colleagues comes in, and we're trying to put the shit back in the horse, and we got to talk them back off the ledge and say, look, you don't have a demon.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Right. It's like, sorry, mine was a little more crass. I apologize. But I mean,
but I normally am, Joe. Don't worry.
Normally he doesn't come up with analogies that good.
But what I will say is, Joe,
absolutely not.
But I will say this: in my interactions with you tonight, I do feel obliged to be far more respectful with the delivery of my opinion. Just because you lack one major thing that I've noticed from 99% of the demonologists that I deal with. And this is just how you've been presenting yourself, and it's ego, right? You have not spoken from a place of pride on it. And so that to me,
from a place of assistance. Pride.
Well, it's a place of service is really what it comes down to. Because
this is a vocation for me. It's not an occupation. This was a calling, and Lorraine told me that.
One of the things I find most humorous about the majority of demonologists I run into, right? They talk, like you did earlier, about opening pathways, opening gates, different addictions, different vices that kind of allow those energies to move in and out, right? Well, like pride's one of the big 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Gluttony, pride, wrath. Yep.
And so you have these incredibly self-absorbed, like hubris, just absolute hubris in these people.
Yeah.
Running around claiming to be a shield against demons. And so that's like me running around with a lit cigarette at a gas station saying I'm the firefighter.
That's a good
You're
analogy.
not the end all be all.
I appreciate the kind words, but if it's one thing I've learned through the years, and my dad used to always tell me this, and I'll never forget, and I tell this to my colleagues, always be kind, always be gentle, and always be humble. you know. And if it means that no one knows my name, so be it. I don't care.
You don't do
know.
it for the clout or the ego or the fame. You do
Well,
it
I
because you
don't.
genuinely enjoy helping people. And like you said multiple times during this interview, it's your calling. Like, you know, there have
I
been
believe
multiple
it
times
is.
that I've gotten out of the field where I was like, I'm done. And then something catches my attention and people are like, I need help. And,
Yeah.
you know,
And
I
Joe, you
jump
have
back into
no
it.
idea the sigh and frustration we deal with every time he decides to come back. You have no idea. With the relief we had when he left, and then just the disappointment and shattered feelings when he
I
shows back up.
love the
I am not
solution.
Sully. Inside
Us and I
joke.
have known each other for some time. We have an
Oh,
abusive relationship.
you guys are
He was
awesome.
in my wedding, and pretty sure I can't have kids because of him anymore. So
That was your bachelor party, and it had nothing to do with me. That is not me. I refuse to accept blame for that.
all right, Joe. So again, I have
Thank you.
loved having you on. We need to have you back on because you and Ian, I felt bad because I've literally just sat over here like,
Oh no, you guys are wonderful.
you know,
Really,
but we need to
I had a
we need to have
ball.
you back on.
The wife's at work, so I'm unsupervised right now. So God knows what I'm going to do.
If we didn't have another show backing us,
Play with my
I'd go
dolls.
for another 2 hours.
We do. We have a show coming up in 10 minutes here, so we got to clear
do
the
you?
air so that they
But-
can
Oh,
come
good.
in.
Goodness.
But
Okay.
Joe, do me a favor. Promise me. Ian and I will be at the Maine Paranormal and Horror Con September 6th and 7th. We are going to be doing a live podcast from the Civic Center.
Okay.
I want you and Thomas and whoever's coming with you to sit down with us and do a quick live 10-minute interview, something like
Sure.
that, while we're there.
I should be around. God willing, the creek don't rise.
Well, I mean, grab the canoe and the paddle. Let's go.
No, I mean, I'm definitely planning on being there. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I love Maine anyway, and I've got family up that way. I haven't seen in a couple of years, so I'm gonna kill a few birds with one stone if I can. So
Definitely. I've been up the
it'd be my
Maine
pleasure.
once. I've been up the Maine once, and I'm excited to go
Oh, yeah.
back. And, you know, Jeff and Ashley live up there, and he's always on my ass about coming up. I mean, it's a 3-hour drive for me.
I love
so,
it. Well,
I mean,
I actually have on my Facebook page that I live in Cape Nettic because that's my dream to move up there.
I noticed that.
Actually-
Yeah, like,
Yeah, I know people are like, Joe, you moved to Maine, you live. Yeah, I'm like, no, it's wishful thinking. But now that I'm an empty nester now, and my daughter's getting married next month, my first one. I said I would like
Congratulations.
within the next. Thank you. I would like within the next 5 years to find a little place up there, and you know, I'm retired now. I do this as a labor of love. You know, I don't make money at what I do because I don't charge people. But you know, when I do speaking engagements and things like that,
it's all about
I-
the intention and what you put out into the universe. So if that's what you're dreaming about, it's going to come back to you.
well, I'm hoping. My wife's still, you know, working down here, but you know, I want her to retire too, so we can just get a little place up near.
Get a little ocean, get a little lake cabin, and just live out your life.
Yeah, I love lighthouses. I mean, I love my lighthouses. I want to live somewhere up near South Bristol, where the Pemaquid Light is. It's
Okay.
away from the tourist area. Like, I love York Beach and the Gunquit, but it's too crowded for me. I have like claustrophobia, and when there's a million people around me, I get kind of nervous and anxious. But
Social
I
anxiety.
go up there with my wife, and I'm like, I hate tourists, and she's like, well, we're tourists. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But yeah, no, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. 6 months is going to go by like this, so I can't wait to meet you guys in person.
All right, Joe. So I have one more last question for you, and this is
Yep.
how we'll end the show. Because we brought up the whole thing about, you know, the whole inevitable demise of death and things like that. What would your last meal be? If you were on death row, what would you request as your last meal?
Oh boy. I don't know if I could eat, to be honest with you, if I know I was going to die. I like chicken marsala. Maybe chicken marsala, maybe something like that. I don't know, steak.
Anything in the
Prime rib.
world. Anything you want.
I don't know. You know, it's funny. I watch those shows and I'm like, I don't know if I'd be thinking about food if I know I was going to be dead in 6 hours. You know, it's a good question, but
I mean,
I don't know
they're
if I
trying to
could
set
eat.
him out on a high note, but I mean,
I don't know. I'm sorry. I probably ruined that for you, but
No. You did not ruin it at all. But
Joe, I'm with you
I
on
love
this.
my prime rib. I just don't know if I could eat.
I mean, you could be like Eileen Warnos and just order a cup of black coffee. That was her final meal, was just a single cup of black coffee.
That was evil personified. Believe me, that woman. Oh my goodness.
That woman was like, that's damn.
Well, look.
I will admit though, that is absolutely something that I would do on the way out. Just give me a cup of coffee. Just give me a
straight black coffee, and just I'm gonna sit here and look you in the eye as I drink it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. It has been an absolute pleasure for the both of us.
Pleasure's all here. Thank you, gentlemen.
No. Thank you so much. It's been a work in the time, and we're gonna get you back on again for sure.
I'd love to.
And great out there. This is actually leading up to our segue here. Our guests next week, Ian, are Jeff and Ashley of the Maine Paranormal and Horror Con. So all three of us that you're seeing on screen right now are going to be at that event in September 6th and 7th. So
awesome.
That is going to be an awesome time. So tune in next week for that. Joe, thank you so much. I'm going to get with you after this. Actually, Ian probably should get with you too to get you booked on his show. So you guys can go into more of the philosophical deep dive of things, because I don't want to be sitting over here on the screen.
I know when we're going to do it. I will. For sure.
Well, you guys have my info.
I do, sir. I do.
Call me anytime.
Thank you.
If you want to just shoot the shit, that's fine.
I sit at home alone all day, so don't tempt me.
Well, my wife works third shift, so now that the kids are all out of the house, I'm by myself. Me, the dog, and the 5 rescued cats.
Oh,
I'm going to heaven.
Yeah, you are. Straight one-way pass. But Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
It was my pleasure, gents. Thank you.
Everybody out there, it has been such a great guest. You are absolutely awesome, and we're going to have you back on because there is so much more we can deep dive into.
Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you. Appreciate it.
God bless you, sir. And Joe, we will see you, if not before September, in September.
Okay. It's a date.
All right, sir. We will see you later.
Okay,
we'll get you the prime rib.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So that was an absolutely amazing interview. We're going to get Ian lined up for Get Moderated and get him on. Everybody, please stay tuned on Get Haunted here for Greg Bakken coming up with Debbie. Oh, God, I can't remember her name. It just escaped my mind here real quick. Actually, I'll tell you here in 1 second. Debbie Romero, who is an evidential psychic medium. So stay tuned for that, 10:05 Central Standard Time. So that's coming on in probably a little over 10 minutes. 8 minutes. Okay. So, Greg, you do your thing. I'll be listening. Ian, always a pleasure. And I'm dropping a little thing here real quick. Ian and I now have tumblers, keychains, and koozies available. I will be posting the link here soon and the pictures. So guess what? If you want some Cups of Curiosities merch, we have it coming for you. So until next week, guys, Jeff and Ashley, Maine Paracon, we'll see you then.
Stay blessed, everybody.
The first annual Maine Paranormal and Horror Con is coming to Maine on September 6th and 7th at the Augusta Civic Center. Come meet your favorite paranormal investigators, cryptid hunters, and horror icons. Special guests include John Zaffis, the haunted collector from Sci-Fi, Jeff and Willie from Mountain Monsters, Bob Elmore Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, CJ Graham, also known as Jason Voorhees from Jason Lives Part 6, Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot, and many more to be announced. Tickets are on sale now. Go to mainparahorror.com to get your tickets and VIP packages now. For more information, check out Maine Paranormal and Horror Con on Facebook and Instagram.